Welcome back, everybody, to the live event called Take a Stand. And this is an incredible event because I'm talking with 35 women who are all sharing their stories of triumph over trauma. So some difficulty that they have had in their life. And they're sharing their stories because they want to inspire you and to let you know that there's light at the end of the tunnel. I'm just going to do my quick YouTube family welcome back. Just to ask you to consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. If you are interested in living life trauma-free, this channel is all about trauma recovery and healing. So subscribe, hit the notification bell, give the video a thumbs up, and please do leave a comment from Lois if there is something that you would like to ask her. Now, these conversations are deep, personal, and people can find themselves feeling emotionally triggered. Just know that that is perfectly natural. It's okay. It is part of the trauma recovery and healing journey. Just please make sure that you get the help and support you need. So either reach out to friends, go to your doctor, or if you're in crisis, if something you've suddenly become aware of something that you weren't aware of before and you feel like you're spinning out of control, please do go to your local A&E. Well, it's A&E in England. I don't know where it is, what it's called in the rest of the world, but go down to hospital and have a conversation with somebody. You don't need to suffer with what it is that you are feeling by yourself if you feel alone. So welcome, Lois.
Thank you, Wendy. It's been an honor to be here today.
Yeah, great to have you. And I'm looking forward to hearing your personal story of triumph over trauma.
Yes, it's a long story, but it has resolution to it because I found the major offender. And what I discovered in myself and in all the people that I help is shame and guilt. Shame and guilt, or as I call it, shame guilt, activates our old and our new traumas forever unless we release the shame guilt hidden within the trauma. Once we release the fire of the shame guilt, then the trauma can be easily dealt with and eventually put away from our conscious mind. So shame guilt really needs to be addressed as its own entity. And that's what I have come to learn, is that shame guilt is the major button, so to speak, that activates your traumas. No matter how much work you're doing, unless you find the shame guilt within the trauma and release it, you're going to keep activating it every time someone shames you or you shame yourself. So that's my message today.
So tell us a little bit about your story of triumph over trauma.
Well, I didn't know I was traumatized until somewhere around 40 or 50. I was very successful as a nurse. I helped start one of the first kidney hemodialysis units in the United States. I did many firsts in my life, and it always felt like a struggle, but I have a problem. I'm an incurable optimist. So, and that's just the story. I'm an incurable optimist because I always know there's a way. Now, I may not know the way, but I know there's a way. So that's what kept me going. But I crashed somewhere around 45 because all the traumas of my life came forward because I never dealt with them because amnesia took over and I didn't remember them until I was so depressed I was suicidal somewhere in my 40s. And that's when my life start coming back to me of all the traumas. And I was dying because of all the brain traumas. I had a leaky valve, mitral valve prolapse. My lungs were not working properly because I had severe scoliosis. My jaws were broken. I had many liver problems because I took medications for 30 years because I had migraine headaches due to all the brain traumas. And that all came together. And the doctor said you only have a year or two to live. And I thought, well, I haven't seen the right doctor yet.
Well, there must be some truth in that because you're still here.
I'm 70, I'll be 79 in a month. So that's a big distance from 55
Yeah,
and dying. And
very
my
much.
my grandsons have taught me how to rollerblade.
Oh, awesome.
So I'm going to have a big rollerblading party at 80.
Brilliant.
So I didn't realize the extent of my traumas until I found the doctor that could help me realign on my bones. It was a chiropractic shaman person that could adjust many severe broken bones that were created 60 years ago.
Mm.
So there is a way to heal, and which each bone I realized that um, I had severe traumas. I remember some where I was thrown down a cement staircase and my neck was broken. C1, C2, and 3 were broken. And of course, I died and God sent me back. And I think I had several near death experiences. I don't remember them all, but I remember always very close to God, a spiritual force. I always talked to God. I always saw things, even though I thought that was normal. So I had felt that I was very, very close to a spiritual nature, which helped give me the impetus to continue to thrive, even though I had incredible physical problems. I remember at one point that I couldn't go outside during the day. I could only go out at night because of the light hurting my head because of all the brain traumas.
Mm.
But now I can go out in the sun. So anything's possible. It took a couple years. It didn't happen overnight. So I decided to go to therapy, traditional therapy,
Mm.
because I was suicidal.
Yeah.
And I went, I got to talk to somebody. So I did speak with traditional therapists and I got better. I didn't know all the traumas, but I was able to voice, like people are saying today, I was able to voice what I remembered about my childhood traumas. But after a year or so, I still wasn't happy, Wendy. I still felt depressed and anxious.
Oh, we've got an echo. Hang on a second. Let me
Sure.
just. Oh, what's going on?
I don't know.
Oh, hang on.
We're having a fun day.
I don't know where that is. I've got no idea. That's very strange. I've closed everything down, so wherever it was playing has closed down now. So sorry to
That's
we
okay.
were
It sounds like this is a very important conversation because
it was
there's
repeating
that
itself.
it's Anyway, where are we, Wendy?
Good question. Good question. You were just talking about therapy, and that that helped with some of the difficulties it was that you were facing, but not everything.
Correct. And I wanted to be happy because I'm an incurable optimist. And I knew I could function better. So I decided to talk to my emotions, talk to myself instead of talking to the therapist. I would say, "Hi, depression, how are you?" And my depression would answer me telepathically. "Hi, anxiety, how are you?" I even made friends with my inner critic, whose name is King. And I got a lot of information about my life by myself talking to myself. Does that make sense? I'm
Yes,
actually I'm
it's
talking to a part of me,
yep,
and it's
absolutely.
and we do have an inner child, but we
Yep.
have inner children. We have many, many inner children inside of us who's dictated by the inner critic. The inner critic is our CEO. He manages everything, and he only knows how to produce shame and guilt. So we had to teach him not to use shame and guilt because I'm not 2 years old anymore. He has to come into the timeline of 2022. Hello, I'm an adult now. I know some things. So anyway, eventually I got healthier. And when I was talking to myself in this way, the shame guilt of my childhood was unconsciously lessening because I'm talking. When I talk with you, as little people say, when we talk to other people, sometimes it helps in the healing. But when you talk to yourself individually, it's very effective. So because of the many near death experiences and things of that sort, I was able to understand the mechanism of shame and guilt. And then when I added shame guilt release in my life, everything changed dramatically within weeks because I could actually see the shame guilt energy, remove it, and my traumas got lesser and lesser. So I decided to make shame guilt a study all to its own because it is inherent in every trauma. And unless we find it and release it, we're going to keep having that trauma. And we have to have coping skills with it. But I said, why don't we just get rid of the shame guilt? We can kick it out of our lives because it doesn't belong to us. So, is that okay if I talk about shame guilt more than all my horrible experiences? I don't remember a lot of them, but
Yeah, I think I think what's really important for the listeners is that they hear different parts of your story so they can relate to what it is that they are also experiencing. So going more into shame and guilt around a story is great because people will be able to understand it from maybe a different perspective from how you saw it. So giving them the opportunity to possibly see it differently, which is a good thing.
okay. And what I discovered was like, wow, it's so easy to understand. Because what happens to your computer, Wendy, when you get a computer virus?
Crashes,
Crashes,
misbehaves. Yeah.
misbehaves, terrible. And you need a virus removal program.
Yep.
Well, shame guilt is an energy that's negative. It's an energy that activates a distortion in our body by people saying you're no good, you're stupid, or we're saying we're dumb, we can't do that. We shame ourselves, we shame from other people. Now, shame guilt words have energy. Wendy, I love you. I love your program. You're doing an awesome job. How does that make you feel? Yeah,
Happy.
yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Wendy, you're doing a crap job. I don't like it. Nah, you should have
They
done
get
better.
angry.
Yeah. Okay. So, but it's the words that carry the energy.
Yeah.
Okay. It's called bullets. They get you.
Yeah.
So when the shame guilt energy comes into us from words of people and words of ourselves, we change our emotions from compassion to depression, from anxiety, from, excuse me, intuition to anxiety, and passion to anger. See, we're already compassionate and loving and beautiful and gorgeous and self supporting and accepting. But shame guilt comes in and crashes us and we turn negative. So
Mm.
I'm saying, why don't we just get rid of the shame guilt energy?
Yeah.
And the beauty is, shame guilt energy only has one problem: it dissolves in detection. How
Oh,
about that?
interesting. Yeah.
Now you know why the powers to be, the government and the organization and the church and your mother, your father, your grandma, everybody uses shame guilt, but they don't let you talk about it
Mm.
because when it's seen, it disappears because the jig is up. Isn't that interesting?
Mm.
Remember in your country, I'm sure you heard of Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Okay, think of Dorothy walking up the yellow brick road. She trembles with fear to see the all and powerful Oz wizard. What does Toto do? The doggy. He pulls the curtain back. And what do we see? A little old man, bald and gray, with a big machine that puffs green smoke. The jig is up. We know what it is. Shame guilt is a big puff of green smoke. That's all it is. And so, with that knowledge, we can get rid of shame guilt energy within us and teach our inner critic not to use shame guilt because it's not good for him or me. Now, my inner critic is called King. He calls himself King. We don't name him, they name themselves. He stopped watching me and pestering me 24 hours a day. He got a he changed his job. He goes out and finds beautiful people like you, Wendy, to do podcasts. He's too busy finding podcasts instead of shaming me. So you make friends with your inner critic. And that's the secret to getting rid of shame and guilt.
How do if people aren't familiar with their own shame and guilt or
No, no, no. Never say your own. Never own shame guilt. It's the shame.
right.
The shame guilt. And everybody says what you said, Wendy. So
Yeah,
thank
yeah.
you for saying it. But you got to say the shame. It doesn't belong to us. Some hosts have called it the shame guilt vampire,
Yeah.
shame guilt. Um, what I have my little list here: shame guilt vampire, shame guilt traumatizer, shame guilt alien. It's an energy source outside of us, Wendy. It doesn't belong to us. It makes us stupid.
How do people recognize that though? What happens if they don't actually recognize if
Well,
they don't
that's why I became a teacher, to teach people to recognize when you say I can't do that. Oh, that's stupid. That's shame guilting yourself. You know, we're so hit we're in this Wendy, all of us are in a shame guilt hypnosis. And I'm knocking you out. I'm saying it doesn't belong to you. And all it is a switch of consciousness, Wendy. All you
mm,
have to do is say, no, that's That's the wizard and making that green smoke. It's a shame, guilt, alien, vampire. It takes your energy away from you. And when you say no, you get your power back, Wendy, because it's taken your power away.
How does it show up for people though? How does it
That's how it
play?
shows up. It plays out. Shame, guilt comes into you. It turns your positive emotions to negative ones. Compassion goes to depression.
Mm.
Intuition goes to anxiety. And passion turns to anger. Everything turns negative. Think of the computer virus. What does a
Yeah,
computer virus do? Messes you up, right?
yeah.
Shame, guilt, energy messes you up. That's not technical to say that. But the truth is, it changes your emotions from positive to negative, makes your meridians not proper, so you get disease, and it turns your brain into confusion. Never, if I can leave one thing with somebody, never make a decision on shame and guilt. It will always backfire. It'll always be wrong for you. Oh, I better do this because Aunt Gertrude won't like me. I better do this because I'll flunk the test. We shame ourselves. We make decisions on shame, guilt, not on our rational mind.
Mm.
This is a big switch, Wendy, but it's the secret to stop the fire of trauma being resurfacing all the time in our lives. We can talk about it, but we got to get rid of the shame guilt that's firing it.
So it feels like some of it is around compassion, forgiveness, acceptance, kindness.
That's all very good. It is very good. It's very important. But you're still going to deal with the trauma until you get rid of the shame guilt that's holding it inside of you.
Mm.
You can have all the forgiveness you want. You can have all the good thoughts you want. You can have all the good kindness, but it will never override the shame guilt. You have to take it like the computer virus. What do you have?
Mm.
A computer virus removal program. You got to find it and get rid of it. Now, the beauty of shame guilt is that once you detect it, it goes away because it dissolves in detection. That's beautiful.
So how with the people that you work with, what would you say then is a because they may not necessarily be aware that they're carrying shame or guilt. So how
We all carry it. We all
yeah, no,
carry it.
everyone carries it. But how do they present to you? What is a common theme that they come to you about?
Most people come to, well, it's divided. Some people say, I can't get over the guilt. I can't get over the guilt. I can't get over the guilt.
Mm.
Or I've been in therapy for 4 years and I'm still depressed. Now I'm even more depressed because I'm unhealable because
Right.
I can't get where I wanted to go. And
Shame.
so I must be too stupid to heed the advice of what, therapies I'm going through. I said,
Yeah.
you are correct. You will never, ever, ever, ever get rid of the depression until you get rid of the shame guilt that's causing the depression. You can be kind and beautiful and loving and sweet and compassionate, but you've got to get rid of the shame guilt. Now, how do you find the shame guilt? Okay, you say, oh, I don't feel good about that. Okay, that's shame guilt. That doesn't belong to me. So you say, what else do I feel? I feel depressed. Okay, hi, depression. How are you? You invite your emotions to talk to you. Shame guilt is an outside energy. It's a uh, virus, whatever you want to call it. It's an alien. It's a part that's cloud that's placed over us that makes us feel bad about ourselves. Yes, it is a feeling, but it activates the negative feelings. Like a computer virus. Can you see a computer virus?
Sometimes.
You actually can see the virus. You can see what it does to your computer, but you
Yeah.
can't see the virus. That's
Yeah.
shame guilt. We can't see shame guilt, but you watch my movie and you can see it. I make shame guilt visible. I'mGoodFilm.com. So I make shame guilt visible so you can see it because we believe what we see. And you can see how it interferes with our brain, with our thoughts, with our emotions, and our health and our spirituality. That's the main thing, is because, like, we're talking to God or religion or higher self or whatever words you want to use. And shame guilt energy is on the line giving us static like we had today on our podcast.
Mm.
We had interference, and shame guilt is an interference in our lives. But we've never been taught this.
Mm.
And you have to say shame guilt, because shame guilt is the same thing. Like, you have a coin and it has heads and tails. You have heads on one side and tails on the other. That's shame guilt. Shame's on one side and guilt's on the other. It's the same energy. So that confuses you. Oh, I have to feel guilty because I have to be moral, but shame's no good. That's where our brain gets confused. Shame guilt is the same. And then your whole life changes. That's right. We just have to think about that for a minute.
Yeah. So if knowing what you know now, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Well, I see myself as a younger self as many parts of me.
Mm.
One dramatic thing happened when I start uh, doing the interpersonality work and talking to myself and depression, anxiety. I felt the most incredible, overwhelming compassion for myself as a younger person, for the traumas that I had endured. I actually fell down on the floor in tears, and compassion and love for myself that I'd never felt before. That I was so resilient and still kind as a child. So I have deep, and I think that's what we call self love.
Mm.
So I have self love for myself, for my childhood. That's very, very deep, and very, very proud of myself. I know that's a different take than most people, but that's how I arrived at self love, by loving myself.
Yeah.
I mean, but I think to love yourself, you have to have somebody to love. Because they say, how do you love yourself? You can't love something exterior. You have to love the part of you inside of you. You have to have somebody to love, right? In
Yeah.
relationship, you got to have another person that you're going to love. So that's how and so when people say your younger self or your childhood, I feel this beam of love and respect and honor for myself.
Fantastic. Nice. Nice. Well, thank you for your insight, your knowledge, and your wisdom. I really appreciate you sharing with us.
Thank you. And I know it will fall on ears, and it takes a couple of days to understand it.
Yeah, it's allowing the brain to mull it over.
Yes. And that's what we need. We need a reset. I don't know
Yeah.
about the reset everybody else is talking, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
Let's not even go there.
we need a reset, because the way we're going doesn't get us there quick. It still
Yeah.
has too many. So we need a new way of looking at this situation.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Got you.
thank you, Wendy.
You're very welcome. If anyone's got any questions for Lois, please just pop them below in the chat box. And don't forget, you can always reach out and connect. The details are also in below the video as well. So thanks once again for joining, everybody, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
Thank you, Wendy.